What's going on YouTube? Today I'm excited to bring you guys my new and upgraded desk setup. So at this desk setup, I do a lot of video editing and some schoolwork, but mostly video editing. So over the past couple of weeks, I've been working on changing some main pieces, like the desk as well as the monitor. I've also, added things that have improved my workflow, and I've also taken away things that I noticed weren't really doing anything or didn't fit the aesthetic properly. In this video, I'm going to be bringing you guys along, showing you how I've done that, how I've built the desk, how I've added the monitor, and every small piece, that's been added to the desk setup in general. So I'll also be taking you guys along on a tour and giving you guys some cable management tips that I like to follow when building my desks. Let's go ahead and see how this desk setup has gone from this to this. Okay, the first thing I did was try to build a new desk, and in order to do that, I had to take out the old one first. I'd been working at my desk with my 16-inch MacBook Pro and no monitor for about a month. The monitor I had there before was an LG 34-inch ultra-wide with a 3440 by 1440 screen resolution. It was great, but I wanted a minimum of 4K for my editing, so I got rid of it. First things first, I got everything off the old desk setup and dismantled my old cable management system. That didn't take long at all. The old setup was also a sit-stand desk, but it couldn't be controlled remotely from a phone like the new one can. I'd also opted to go larger since I noticed I always wanted more desk space with the old setup. The old desk was only 55 inches wide and 23 inches deep. Once the desktop was separated from the frame, it was easier to take them out, and soon after I brought in the new desk frame. Most sit-stand desks, if not all of them, have the same build process, so building this was a breeze. And even if you have no experience building a sit-stand desk, the manuals are pretty helpful. It took me about 30 minutes to get the frame up, even though they say it should take only about 5 minutes in the manual. FYI, it's impossible to do it under 5 minutes with all the screws you have to get in. After building the frame, I brought the new desktop in. I made sure the desktop was way larger than the old one, but I made sure to measure the space I had to make sure it'll fit, and it did. The desk frame can not only go up and down, it can also be expanded or shrunk between 40 to 73 inches to accommodate various desktop sizes. If you decide to use a different tabletop than the ones from Autonomous, you probably won't have pre-drilled holes to work with. The ones that can be purchased with the SmartDesk all come with pre-drilled holes to make lining and setting them up with the frame easier and faster. Keep in mind that you have to install the control module on the side of the desk where it won't get in the way, and for me, that's usually on the right side closest to the wall. After making the connections between the control module, the right and left motors, and the power box, the desk was pretty much done. I added an 80-inch nanoleaf LED strip to one side of the desk like I had done with my old desk. It pretty much just sticks on using 3M tape, but not so bad that you can't take it off when the time is right. At this point, cables were starting to get wild, and the cable management stage had to begin. I installed a 23.5-inch cable management tray around the center point under the desk, but behind the desk frame to hide sagging cables and power adapter blocks. It's easy to install, and all you need is a Phillips head screwdriver to mount it. After installing, I ran all the cables I could through it to keep them organized and out of sight. I also used some sticky zip ties to manage cables in awkward positions. At this point, things were already looking a lot cleaner, but I wasn't done cable managing at all. I flipped the table into a standing position and set it up as I'd originally intended. I plugged in the power to see if everything had been set up and connected correctly. At first, the desk didn't respond, not until I downloaded the Autonomous app and started controlling directly from my phone. Once it was set up with the app, I was also able to manually control the desk from the control module. I went on to do some more cable management with some 15-inch J-channel cable raceways. I installed one on the right and one on the left side of the desk next to the cable tray from earlier. The main purpose of these was to create a route for cables coming from anywhere on the left or the right side of the desk to prevent sagging, before going to the cable tray. I used a double-sided transparent tape provided with the J-channel raceways to stick them on there. I love the tape so much I had to pick up a few rolls to use for further cable management whenever I needed. The next thing I added was a surge protective power strip with 12 outlets and 3 USB charging ports for powering up everything on the desk. I stocked this on with the same double-sided tape again, and this one was behind the cable tray to hide all the connections going on behind it. At this point, cable management was pretty much set up for future devices I planned on adding to the desk. Between the cable tray, J-channel runway, and the double-sided tape, I spent about 80 to 90 Canadian dollars, and I still have leftover J channels and a bunch of tape to use in the future. Cable management is usually inexpensive, especially if you do it the right way. Check the descriptions for links for any of the items I refer to throughout the video. The Samsung 4K Smart Monitor M8 arrived shortly after. I got this in warm white to match my desk aesthetic. I was pretty skeptical about this monitor when I first heard about it, but I also wanted to try out a budget monitor that also looked stylish. The box for it was very light and it didn't come with a ton of accessories. The stand was designed to be easy to install using a single screw as well. I thought it looked very stylish even though it was pretty much a duplicate of Apple's 24-inch iMac models. It also came with a USB-C to USB-C cable, an HD webcam, a remote control, mini HDMI to HDMI, and a power cable. Mounting the screen onto the stand is as simple as clicking it in. The webcam is easy to install and can easily be added or removed as needed. I took it off immediately and installed my monitor light on there because I use that a lot more. I'll stick it on there if I need to use it. The entire monitor is slim and lightweight and fit my desk very nicely. I plugged in the USB-C and power cables and then started to add all the other little things to the desk. Things like my oversized desk pad, HomePod mini, keyboard, mouse, plants, laptop, and vertical stand, as well as the Alex drawer, from the old desk. This time though, I stuck it underneath the desk as opposed to the side of the desk like I did with the old desk setup. It's not a desk without an ergonomic chair, so I brought that in as well. I powered on the smart monitor with the provided remote and then set it up very quickly. I used the USB-C to USB-C connection to project my MacBook onto the screen initially, but that wasn't going to work out with the addition of new accessories. The monitor doesn't have a USB-C hub, which was a huge bummer for me. The hub was needed to connect other accessories like my mic and my speakers, which both use USB Type-A connections. I decided to use a 14-in-1 USB-C hub to solve this problem. I used the double-sided tape from earlier to stick it to the corner of the desk and provided power to the device using the 65-watt power adapter. I had to use the mini HDMI to project my MacBook onto the monitor with this system, but it now provided my laptop with a bunch of USB Type-A ports, which I actually needed. Next thing I did was set up my desktop speakers. I had to buy stands separately to go with the speakers as well. The speakers weren't very cheap, but definitely worth it for the sound they produce and the small footprint they leave on my desk. The speakers are the AudioEngine A2 Plus wireless with Bluetooth and other features for connectivity. I got them in white once again just to fit the desk aesthetic, and they did. I made all the connections for the speakers very quickly and then set them up on the stands pointed upwards and towards the center where I'll be sitting, so the sound is always coming at me. I also added this little figurine that was gifted to me by my brother after his recent trip to Jamaica. We're not from there if you're wondering, we just like to travel and experience new cultures. I also replaced my old wireless charger with a MagSafe style wireless charger that also looked more stylish in my opinion and took way less space. The one I got is Anker's PowerWave 2-in-1 magnetic charger, only meant for iPhones though. The only thing I dislike about it is the fact that they don't provide you with the required 20-watt USB-C adapter, which you'll need to provide power to the charger. I got that separately and that was all set up for charging my phone. I don't use AirPods, so the spot under will be vacant. With my old desk, I used Wi-Fi and it just wasn't fast enough for me. It also affected how slow I could access my server, which was on the same network. The change I made with the new setup was by running an Ethernet cable using an on-wall cable raceway. It was so thin and almost impossible to notice unless you were looking for it. I ran into the same corner I usually place my laptop and then just hooked up the Ethernet cable to my 14-in-1 USB-C hub. This way, whenever my laptop is hooked up to the desk setup, I'm hardwired and everything is a whole lot faster. This for me is a huge plus and speeds up my workflow. And you already know, time is money. I moved on to adding my mic and boom arm. I do a lot of voiceovers, so this had to be set up for ease of use. The Shure SM7B dynamic mic is what I mounted onto a Throne Max Zoom boom arm. It's an XLR mic and it requires two other pieces to function correctly in my experience. The first is a cloud lifter and the second is an audio interface. You'd want the cloud lifter closer to the mic than the audio interface. All you'll have to do is connect from the mic to the cloud lifter and then from that to the audio interface using two XLR cables. I also used my double-sided tape to stick these to the bottom of the desk to keep them out of sight and out of mind. That's one huge tip for managing cables. You want to stick any and everything you don't want topside underneath the desk. That was the last thing I added to the desk before calling it for now. Cable management was great in my opinion, and I had managed to keep every ugly cable and device out of sight. The final result was a clean and modern looking desk setup. The audio interface of the mic was also readily available as I mounted that closer to the front for easy access to the control knobs. I had to account for when I raised the table to standing height, so I left some slack for the Ethernet and the single power bar cable. They're not as visible when the desk is in a sitting position though. Now, let's take a tour of the entire setup, the finished setup. The SmartDesk Connect is definitely a big upgrade from my old desk in terms of size and functionality. It can be raised from between 23.6 inches to 49.2 inches for different sit-stand combinations and can also hold up to 310 pounds of weight. It also has an anti-collision system for sensing and stopping when there's an item like, my Alex drawer below it. It can be controlled from the Autonomous app where you can schedule sit-in and stand-in sessions. This pre-programs the desk to rise and drop automatically. This can be especially useful if you want the desk to force you to get up and sit down at certain times. The control module has 3 programmable buttons which can be set up to different sit-stand heights. It feels very sturdy and well built, and it's not very loud at only 40 decibels, but still loud enough for you to hear. There's also 2 silver grommets on the XL tabletop, which I honestly wish were white instead, but I can live with them. Autonomous also provides a solid 7-year warranty with this desk, which is great. The chair I use is the Ergo Chair Pro Plus, also from Autonomous. I got this one a while back though, and have loved it ever since. It's essentially frameless since you can adjust different parts of it in all kinds of directions to fit your body. Definitely a plus for good back health. You can also recline it, and I love that part. As for the Samsung Smart Monitor M8, I don't know how I feel about it just yet. I love how beautiful it looks on the desk and it makes for a nice centerpiece, but it's still lacking some things that are very important to me. It's got a lot of features besides just being a monitor. In fact, you can say it's a TV and monitor combo since it's got smart features, just like a TV. The biggest thing for me with it is that it's very affordable at $849 Canadian dollars, at least at the time of this video. The speakers on it are decent, but not something I'll be using, so I don't really care. But if you do, here's what they sound like. Not bad, but also not the best. They're inbuilt speakers on a budget monitor, so I won't lose my mind over that. On the other hand, my new desktop speakers, the AudioEngine A2 Plus, sound way better and look great on the desk as well. They don't have insane bass, so if you're into beats making or music production, these definitely aren't it. If you're into voice work or video editing like me, you'll find that these are great. You can also get a subwoofer to go with it if you really want insane bass. There's a single knob on the back for controlling volume directly from the speakers. I keep that at max and adjust the speaker's volume using my MacBook's volume controls. I did go ahead and pick up some Kanto S2 stands for small speakers, and they fit perfectly. I've also got my BenQ Screen Bar Halo monitor light mounted onto the monitor in place of the webcam, which I don't plan on using very much. When I do, I can easily swap them out. The light has a wireless control knob for changing multiple light settings. I love how there's only a single USB Type-A cable required to power the light. This reduces the amount of cables I have to deal with for cable management. The driving force of my entire setup is my 16-inch MacBook Pro M1 Max. I don't have to say much about this if you know anything about the M1 Max MacBook Pro models from last year. Without this guy, there wouldn't be any need for this setup. And even without the setup, it's still a powerhouse that I've grown to love and use on a daily basis. It's sitting in a vertical stand for a clean look and to create desk space. My keyboard and my mouse aren't new, but they've been serving me so well, so why change them? The keyboard is a Keychron K210 keyless mechanical keyboard, and the mouse is Logitech's MX Master 3. I'm sure you've seen that one just about everywhere. It's pretty much the best mouse I've used to date. I've also got palm rests for both of them. All of those all sit on a large 35.4 by 17-inch desk pad. The K2 also comes with brown switches, which gives them that tactile feel and sound. The Shure SM7B is a dynamic XLR mic and the best mic I've ever used for voice work, but you have to get a cloud lifter to boost the audio levels. Not a cheap investment, but a very much worth it one. I can easily control the gain level using the Scarlett 2i2 audio interface, which I mounted earlier in an easy to reach spot. The Anker PowerWave 2-in-1 charges my phone fairly quickly, but it's still not as fast as using the fast charger wired directly to my phone. It charges through my phone case, but I have one with MagSafe in it. If you have a case without MagSafe, then it's not going to work. My desk setups usually aren't complete without a few decorative pieces. So I've added a small figurine and a medium-sized plant to the desk as well. On the wall, I still have my elements from Nanoleaf, and right above that, I've got a YouTube plaque as well as a framed iPhone 4S sitting on a small shelf. And that's pretty much it. That's the setup I'll be working with for now until I decide to change it up again. Just like everyone else, I have to keep adapting to what makes my workflow better. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. If that's the case, consider dropping a like below. You can also subscribe to see as the desk setup evolves over time. Thanks for watching, y'all. It's Tommy with Midas Tech, and I'm out.